If you wake up with zero audience tomorrow, zero money, and zero reputation, what is the very first thing that you are going to do from scratch?
Wow. Speaking influence is like the enabler for other skill set of yours. Once you're able to speak and influence, right, it's like a door opener for different opportunities to you.
I would probably ignore the advice from my parents telling me to study hard when I was in university.
Oh, mom and dad, are you watching this?
What I have gained is so much more life experience that I'm able to utilize it in the real world. A lot of people, they are playing to save in university. When I have more commitment and then when I fail, there is more cost towards that. But then when I'm in university and I don't have a lot of commitment, I wish that I could try out more things. I wish that I could have failed more, or I could have experimented more so that I can actually grow even faster.
Hi everyone, before we kick things off, just want to share with you that we are on a mission to reach out to more people so that they are able to turn their mess into message. And we can't do this without your help. So which is why, right, it will mean a lot to us if you can actually help us to like, subscribe, and even share this episode to people who can benefit from this. And this means a lot and it can help us to create more meaningful episodes like this. So thank you in advance, and I'll see you in the episode.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Influence Show where influence meets breakthrough. Now in today's episode, so we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, because for those of you who have known us, everything that we have actually built up to this stage, whether it's our influence class or whether it's the program that we have, it is all because of the hard work and the strategies that we have put in years ago. And then a lot of times people will always ask us, hey Shu Yi, how do I actually get to your level right now? Or how do I actually get started as a speaker? So the topic for this podcast here today is that if we have no audience, no income, no reputation, what are we going to do for us to start exactly from scratch? So that's why in today's episode, you are going to get some insights based on the mindset that we have, the strategies that we have done if we were to start all over again. So with that being said, today in this episode, we have my partner Vikit here with me.
Yay, hello everybody. Today we're going to share about our mistakes,
All right,
our lessons, yes.
Okay, so with that being said, let's dive in, because I want you to know that this isn't theory. It all comes from the experiences that we have over the past few years of running this business, right? So going into the first question here today. Now, if you wake up with zero audience tomorrow, zero money, and zero reputation, what is the very first thing that you are going to do from scratch?
Wow. Okay, so if I were to wake up with zero audience, zero money, and also zero reputation, just like when I actually started, right? So one of the first things that I will do is that I will look for people who are more successful than me. I will actually look for people who are already going through some of the challenges, right? So I would actually go for them and then to seek for that mentorship. Right? Because you see, if I have limited resources, right, meaning that the resources that I have to be very careful about it. So I have to minimize the risk of me making the mistakes. So I think that one of the things I did last time, and I wish I did more, is that looking for mentor, like looking for a mentor or a coach to actually guide me and also to show me the way and also to give me the clarity so that when I do it, I actually minimize my risk as well. And in a way, it makes me more sustainable, because you don't want to hit the wall and then come back up again. How many times you can do that? Yeah.
So I think that when you said that, right, so a lot of people will have that question that says, hey, Vikit, it's easier for you to say than done, right? Because like you are where you are right now. But then like when you start off with zero reputation, you are a nobody, you are just a high school kid, and you go out there looking for mentors, then a common belief would be, who would actually want to mentor after me?
Wow. Yeah. So this is actually one of the beliefs that I had as well, right? It's like successful people, would they want to spend time to actually mentor me? But one thing I realized is this, right? A lot of successful people, actually, they are really willing to share. Why? Because when someone younger, for example, imagine right now for you who are watching this, right? Someone who is younger than you, maybe a high school kid, come to you and seek for advice from you, how to do well in life, how to do well in career. How does it make you feel? It makes you feel that, wow, someone looked up to me and I can actually contribute back. So that's what successful people are feeling as well. If you are willing to put your ego down and to really ask for feedback, ask for advice, right? You'll be surprised at how people would really willing to guide you. So one of the things that I think one of my mentor as well, his name is Ken Ng. So back then I was actually running my class, and then it was not really successful. Running online public speaking class, it was starting out. I was finding directions, not really sure how to pitch the entire structure. That's before I met you. So I actually came to Ken as can you tell me how are you able to run such a big business, like an 8-figure business? How do you do that? I thought that he would just give me 1 or 2-liner advice. Instead, you guess what he did? He set an appointment with me, asked me to come in, and then he invited his own general manager to come into the Zoom as well. And he said to me, Vikit, ask us anything that you want to know. We are like an open book. We will tell you everything. So we had 2 to 3 sessions like this. And then they just share everything that I need to know about the speaking industry. So I was like really touched. It's like, so I asked him this, like, why would you actually spend time to get someone who is like me? Who, you didn't even invest me. If I do well, nothing to do with you, right? Then he shared this one thing that really, really makes me respect him. He said this, it's not about what can I benefit. It's about how can I create values to you. Because when I'm able to create values to other people that I met, then I'm making the world a better place. And eventually values will come to me. If you want value, you have to first create value. So that's something that really, helped me get started.
That's really good, because I think that like what you shared, I think when people first start off, they all have that limiting belief that, hey, what if all these successful people, they don't want to talk to me because of their level, right? But then I think that, like what you said, is just a misconception that most people actually have, because for me, I always live by this principle that if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. But then if you ask, like, if you really think about it, right, what's the worst that could actually happen? The worst is you just go back to ground zero, where basically you started off from nothing, and then that's it. You don't even lose a single arm or legs, or you don't lose your life, right? So you are just back to ground zero. But then one question that you got to ask yourself is that, what's the best that could happen when I ask? So think about it like Vikit is where you met a great mentor that you call it friends later on, right? And he eventually went on to help you a lot in business, and then later you went on to collaborate in a lot of things as well, right? So it's always that one opportunity that leads you to the many opportunities that you're gonna have in your life. Okay, so for me myself, right, I think that mine is also very similar to Vikit, because I started my journey as young as I was about 20 years old. So when I was in university, I was already starting to give talks, and I would skip my own lecture to go to other people's lecture hall to just give talks. So from there, right, I learned how to build a business, and I was in this speaking industry for a very, very long period of time, right? So but then if I were to start everything from scratch, right? So one thing that I would probably do is I would find out what is the one skill set that I have that people can see value in. So when I identify that skill set, whether it's in speaking, right, or whether it's in any other form of skill set, then the second thing is I will ask myself, how can I actually deliver value to other people? Because I always believe that, like, the skills that you have is the most important thing. And if you tell me that if you don't have any skill, then you, like what you said, do your very best to acquire those skills at first, right? Build the foundation strong first. Because be it like whether you are working under someone else, whether you are modeling after someone else, find a skill set that is valuable enough, that can add value to people, and you keep on sharpening on that one skill set. And when you make enough money, then eventually with that skill set, you can venture into other different places as well. But most importantly, when I started off, instead of asking yourself, like, what can I do? Ask yourself, what value can I bring to the table, or what problem can I actually solve? And start with that first.
Beautiful. Yeah. So I think that when you can, again, back to the advice, when you are able to, acquire that skill and also to solve that problem, that's when opportunities will come your way. Imagine if opportunities come your way and then after that you're not ready, you don't have the skills, then unfortunately, you have to give it a pass. Yeah,
that's really, really true, right? And I think this reminds me of one of our IBM students, Zhao Xiang.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. So when Zhao Xiang came to ask us for help, right? So he was like a 18, 19-year-old student where he know what he wanted to do to become a speaker, but then he doesn't know how to actually get that. So he was like literally starting from scratch, right? So one of the things that he actually asked himself is that how can I deliver value to the people out there? And one thing that he realized is that number one, he was very afraid of rejection. And not just that, there are also a lot of people out there who is also very afraid of rejection as well. So what he decided to do is that he decided to do this thing called rejection therapy, where he would just go to different people, and the goal is that he would do dumb stuff just to ask for a rejection, just to ask for a no. So what he would do is that he would go to Hai Di Lao, ask them to sing him a happy birthday song, even though it wasn't his birthday. And he will even go to the Tesla headquarters to ask them for a test drive just to get rejected. Yeah, so in the end, right, so he got so much no, and he documented the whole process and he posted on his social media account. And because of that, there are so many people who find his video to be so relatable and they get value from it. And eventually he gets invited to speak at different events as well. So that is, I think, a very perfect example on when you don't have anything at the start. So what you need is you find one thing to create value for other people first, right? Because one of the quote that I have written down here is attention follows ability. So when you have the ability to add value to people, that is where attention will follow after you, and you will never lack attention because of this.
Beautiful. Right. So next.
All right.
Yeah.
So see, now that we have the mindset already, right? What would you actually do? So let's talk a little bit about the skill set, right? So what do you think is the skill set that you would actually rebuild first if you lose everything and you start from scratch?
Wow. And this is the skill set that I've built last time, the first thing that I've built, and I think I'm going to build it again, is the ability to influence, the ability to sell something, right? So back then, right, when I first, by the way, I'm actually a chemistry background. I graduated from chemistry. So I'm supposed to be a chemist, right? And as a chemist, you're supposed to be behind the bench and then work on the chemicals and all those things. But because of my internship experience, I actually learned about sales. And I was like fascinated, like, wow, the world of sales is so fascinating. It's like how much value that you can actually create by just actually influence others. Yeah, and also giving values to others as well. So because of that, right, I slowly built on my influence skills, working as a salesperson. And even when I'm coming from my first startup, I also use that skill. How am I able to sell something? How am I able to influence others? Even as a leader, I also joined NGO as well. How can I influence people to work together as a team? And looking back, right, these skills, the ability to influence others, basically is like a door opener for a lot of things. Right? So for example, when I actually started the first social enterprise, right, the first thing that we need to do is that when we didn't really have a solid product, we learn how to sell first. We learn how to pitch first to validate the concept. Hey, people really want it. Then only we start to perfect the product itself. Yeah, so I think that when you can influence, you're able to sell something, you're able to pitch for support, you're even able to recruit people to your team so that they support the mission as well. Right?
Right.
So what about you?
Yeah, so I relate to what you actually said, right? Because I think that the ability to speak well and influence is extremely, extremely crucial. And I learned this at a very, very young age. So for those of you who know my story, I started off like not being able to speak well, right? Because all I knew was I only wanted to become a national badminton player. So I published my very first book called When Success Meets Happiness at the age of 20 years old in my university, becoming one of the youngest author to publish this book. So just for your context, for me to publish this book, publishing a book requires around 20,000 ringgit of funds. So back then as a student, I did not have 20,000 ringgit of funds, right? Because, and the reason why I wanted to publish this book is because I knew for a fact that I wanted to become a speaker. So for me to get credibility is through becoming an author, which is basically to write a book, right? So what I did was that I did not have 20,000 ringgit, but I knew for a fact that I have the ability to influence, like what you said. So what I basically do is that I will go to different parties and I would just ask them, would you be willing to invest in my book? I will pitch them the whole idea about my book, and then in return, they get to publish their logo and their business information at the back of my book. Yeah, so that is literally what I did. And what I did was that I went door knocking to over 100 plus of sponsors, right? I still have the list with me, whereby I would email them every single one of them. And then for those of them who get opportunity, I would actually go up there to pitch my ideas to them. I got no after no after no after no, and I think that was one of my early days where I learned about how to deal with rejection, right? So I continue to do that. And eventually, I got my entire book being published at the age of about 21 years old without having to pay a single fund because the entire book was being sponsored. And one of the biggest sponsors was actually Taylor's University, which is my own university, right? So that got me started off my whole journey of going on a speaking tour and also to be able to establish myself as a speaker, and things become so much easier whenever I have a book to actually market myself. But then if you were to break it down, like what you said, is the ability to influence other people, and it all starts there.
That's good. So I think that if you're not so sure which skill to build first, I think that speaking influence is like the enabler for other skill set of yours, right? Because once you're able to speak and influence, right, then it's like a door opener for different opportunities to you.
Yeah, and also I think that to add on to that, right? So if I were to go back to a time where I start from scratch, right, I think one of the things that really helped me the most is where I learned how the mind actually functions. I learned about personal development. I learned about this thing called neuro-linguistic programming, which is a very, very powerful tool, right? And I would wish that I learned it so much earlier so that I could actually do so much more with that, right? So just to give you a big context about what neuro-linguistic programming is all about, it's about understanding how the human mind works, right? So why do people procrastinate? Why do people set goals and they don't follow through? Why do people hold themselves back? And it's because of the limiting belief that they have. So when I get a very clear understanding of how the mind actually works, then eventually, like, whatever I do, I know that I have something to actually follow after, right? I have a concept to follow after. So for me, like, I feel that we were being born with a very powerful mind, but we were never handed the operating manual on how to use this mind. So that's why every time we use this mind, we don't have a clear steps, and then we just use it for the sake of using it, but we never fulfill our potential. So NLP is like the operating manual to the mind, where it helps you to uncover your belief, your pattern, and also help you to build that kind of discipline and also resilience towards your goals as well. So I learned this skill at the age of 18, where it really, really changes me, right? Because from there, I understand how to deal with failures. I understand how to talk to people. I understand how to deal with human psychology, how to deal with emotion as well. And I realized that this is actually a big part of success, right? Because before you even talk about the hard skill, this soft skill is the most important skill set that I actually acquired at a very young age.
Wow. So you see, both of the skills that we wish to rebuild are actually mind, people related, and also influence. Yeah, so I think that these are the skills. It's like the soft skills, right? It can couple with any of the skills that you want to build later. It's like an enabler, like what I mentioned as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, right? So now that we have talked about your skill set, right? So let's talk a little bit about what you will be ignoring when you get started off, right? Because let's just say if you lose everything, right? Your money, your followers, and you are starting completely from scratch, what would you be completely ignoring if you were to start all over again?
Wow. To answer this question, I need to tell you this story, right? So back then, I actually started training teenagers on public speaking, right? And then I learned how to set goals, right? So I actually set goals very early of the stage when it's still very volatile. I actually learned, from business experts saying that, you should actually set your 3 years, your 5 years, and also your 10 years plan for your business. So I did, right? So I just said, okay, the 3 years, how much money that I want to achieve, 5th year, 10 years, set really great visions, everything is planned out, how's the office that I want to have, right? So I set a goals that is like my 10 years roadmap, right? And the problem is that, right, I was very fixated towards this goal. Yeah. So when I was very fixated towards this goal, right, then that means that I stopped exploring. I actually even rejected opportunity as well. and I don't look elsewhere. So even when there are people who come to me and say that, Vikit, why don't you train this corporate? Why don't you train these leaders? I said, oh, no, I just want to train teenagers because I've committed myself to this and nothing's going to change. Yeah. So one thing I realized is this, right? When you are at the starting stage, right, when everything is still very volatile, yes, you can actually set certain vision, like roughly where you want to go, but do not fix everything set into stone, and then you are like stuck into it. You still need to be very flexible in order to navigate throughout this, because definitely there will be more challenges, right? So like I always mention, right now I'm actually 34 years old. If I'm trying to set a goal for myself in 44 years old, how would I know what would happen when I was actually 44 years old? And also, probably my wisdom right now is not wise enough for me to set a goal that is so far ahead. Yeah. So I feel that as long as you have rough directions, you also roughly know, okay, this is the direction that I want to go. I want to go into people development. I want to go into coaching. That's good enough. Then start exploring. So I felt that I did not do a lot of exploring. Yeah, I did not do a lot of trial and error. I was like, very early, I set my mind already. Yeah. So I think that's one of the things I would ignore. Ignore the goal that is like way too long term. Start focusing on now. Start experimenting at the starting stage.
So there was this contradicting thoughts that said that basically if you want to achieve something that is worthwhile, you got to set your vision long enough, right? So how do you actually juggle between that, right? Because when you first started off, right, you don't set a 10 years vision. So are you telling that like 10 years vision are not important for people who are starting out, or what are your thoughts about that?
I'm not saying that setting vision is not good. I think that yes, you still need vision. You still need to know roughly where you are. But the thing is this, right? When you set a vision, don't let this be a rope to tie you down that you're no longer looking at, you're no longer flexible. Yeah. So in fact, right now, right, I stopped trying to set like 10 years goal for the business. Right. What is happening next week? Probably we are not really sure as well, right? But what happened is that at least we actually set ourselves the next 2 to 3 years. I think that's good enough. Yeah. In fact, if you ask some of the really established companies like Google's, right? So if you ask them, right, they don't really actually set super long-term goal, right? Why? Because sometimes they feel that if you are setting goals too early, it may actually ties you down as well. Yeah. And then if you are setting a lot of these metrics, all these things too early, then you are busy chasing the metrics rather than chasing what matters. Then you are being deviated from what you truly want. Yeah. So which is why now, if you can ask me, right, I would say yes, still set your vision. Purpose is really important, but then be flexible, be agile when it comes to adjusting the strategy, adjusting the direction as well. Yeah.
Okay, really, really nice.
How about you?
So if I were to completely ignore something that I've started, right, I would probably ignore the advice from my parents telling me to study hard when I was in university.
Oh, mom and dad, are you watching this?
Because, okay, so I'm not saying that university degrees is not important, right? But I feel that university is not just about studying hard. Because I think that university is actually the best place for you to experiment and fail, right? Because I realized that when I started off speaking, I was skipping lectures to actually go to different universities to speak. Yes, I took a hit in my results, my grades and all these things, right? But then what I have gained is so much more life experience that I'm able to utilize it in the real world, right? So I feel that like a lot of people, they are playing to safe in university where they go to classes, they skip lectures, or some they go partying, but then they don't experiment enough, or they don't fail enough. I realized that opportunities is the most when you are in university, where a lot of universities, people don't realize that they set up a lot of resources to help entrepreneurs to succeed. But then most of the time, what we do is that we are so fixated on our GPA, CGPA, that we don't actually try hard enough to experiment and to fail. Because I realized that like, if I want to fail, not to say I can't fail right now, but then when I have more commitment and then when I fail, there is more cost towards that. But then when I'm in university and I don't have a lot of commitment, I wish that I could try out more things. I wish that I could have failed more, or I could have experimented more so that I can actually grow even faster.
Wow. That's good. Yeah, I also want to add on, right? I think you have brilliantly mentioned, it's not about telling you to quit your university and stop focusing on your studies, right? It definitely is not that, right? And I feel that, even though right now what I'm doing is not related to my degree, I graduated from chemistry, now I'm doing speaker, like how does it relate, right? But one of the things I still feel, right, those years in universities like train me on one thing, is training me the ability to learn, right? It's a structured mind on how to learn. Yeah, because when I was learning chemistry, I was indoctrinated in a very systematic way of how to learn in a scientific way, right? What are some of the hypotheses? How do you actually clarify that? So all this, right, something that is still applicable to how I think right now. Yeah. So I feel that if you're not so sure, why are you in university? Why am I spending my 3 years here? It's not doing anything. Why not try to learn, master the ability to learn? How can you learn? Even foreign subject, how can you learn through trial and error? Because I think that if you're someone who is able to learn fast, you are someone who is able to evolve fast. And you can't beat someone who is always evolving. Yeah, so that's my thought.
All right, very good. So let's move on to the next part of this. So if you were to lose everything at the start, your money, your followers, your business, your relationship, what do you think is the mistake that cost you the most in your early days?
Wow. The mistake that cost me the most during my early days.
Which probably you would have avoided it right now.
I think one of the biggest mistakes, right, is you understood how the mind works. I understood it a bit later. So I still remember back then when I first started the business, right? We always think that, hey, starting a business is about how good is your skill, how good is your craft about speaking, all these things, right? But what I realized, right, is this, right? To grow your business, you need to first grow yourself. Because your business is a reflection of your own growth. Right. So one thing I noticed is that back then, when I was actually running the business, I was actually having some of the mental blocks. I was having a lot of limiting beliefs as well, a lot of insecurity. So this kind of insecurity, this kind of blocks, right, in a way affects my relationship with my wife, which is my girlfriend back then. We were always arguing, right? Why? Because there is certain part of me I always feel insecure. There's certain part of me that I feel that I have to be in control. That makes me a really bad boyfriend. And that also makes me a really bad entrepreneur as well, right? So when you have this feeling of insecurity, when you are making decisions, sometimes, right, this kind of insecurity, this kind of belief may take over you. Then turns out you're not making the best decisions for the company, you are making the best decisions for your ego. And I noticed that happened. So sometimes I actually stopped working with someone because we can't see eye to eye. I stopped working with someone because we are not aligned. Then I actually don't spend much of my time to really understand from the person's perspective. I always think that I'm right. That's the problem. So if I were to go back, right, I would really avoid this, right? I hope that I can actually learn NLP a bit earlier. I hope that I can actually learn how to master my mind earlier. So that I can actually put this pattern into my awareness and then I learn how to break it earlier, right? So once I think that when I can overcome my own mental block, then it can reflect in my relationship, my life, my health, and even my relationship with my parents as well, and even my business. So I think that's probably the thing that I would actually want to avoid.
All right,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Right, so I think for me myself, right, one of the costliest mistake, I don't see this as a mistake, but more like a learning point, is one thing that I've learned is that everything evolves. So a lot of times we think that things will happen a certain way, especially when we are extremely young. But then we tend to realize that like over time things actually change. It's just like the business that I have, I did not know that I will actually end up in this line together with you. I did not know.
Never in my mind.
Never in life, right? So, but then like back then, I had a different vision for my business. And same goes to I have a different vision for my relationship or even for my health and all these different things as well, right? So along the way, I think that one of the biggest thing that maybe I could have done better is I could have tested out more things and I could have done more. Right, because I think a lot of people see me as a high achiever. Like I've achieved a lot of things at a young age, but I feel that I could still do even more. right? I feel that I could have worked even harder to start even earlier so that I'm able to get even further compared to where I am today. Yeah, so I'm not sure if this is something that all high achievers have, but then I think this is actually one of the things that I feel I could have done better in the past.
Right. Yeah. So I think it also relates to my point, right? Like passion change, things change. I think it's like how agile you are to adapt to those changes. And I think that personally, I see you, knowing you for long, you are super agile. It's like, this way cannot, try this way lah. This way no, try this way lah. And I think that that's actually brings you to your where you are right now at a very young age. And that's something I respect about you a lot.
Thank you, right? So with that being said, I hope that this episode really helps you, for those of you who are just starting out. And these are really coming from our own life experiences, the mistakes that we have made, and also some of the amazing people that we have met along the journey as well. And we would like to thank each and every one of you who have actually helped us grow in this journey. And I really hope that you guys are able to learn something from this episode as well. So with that being said, we are on a mission to actually help more people to discover their voice, to turn their mess into a powerful message, and to also start from scratch, because we understand how it felt to actually be in that position as well. So this is why we would really be very appreciative if you have gained value from this session. We would really appreciate it if you could actually share this message out to more people out there. Click the subscribe button and turn on the notification as well, so that every time we have videos like this, you will be the first to get notified and you'll be able to learn something out from it, right? And don't forget to also leave your comments inside the comment section. What is the biggest takeaway that you have from this session itself, so that we could also learn from you guys here as well, and we would love to see your amazing feedback. So with that being said, thank you so much for this episode, and also thank you so much for your time. We look forward to see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.
See ya.
See you. Bye-bye.